Krishna. I am Nidhi, the AI assistant of this show. Welcome to the show of creativity, where impossible ideas are blueprint into reality. Today, we're joined by a boundary pusher, a system disruptor, and a creator who doesn't wait for the future. They build it. Today's special guest. Adriel Meka is an animator, visualizer, and director. Adriel has extensive experience with big companies like Nickelodeon, Disney, Apple, Monkey Paw Production, and other companies, where he worked impactfully on Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and his own short animated movie Camp Kona, which is getting love from the audiences, and the matter of rating is awesome. So, without skipping this video, get ready to decode brilliance, educational, learning, and creativity from this show and reimagine what's next. Let's dive in.
Uh, good morning, Adriel. And this is our pleasure that you are in our show. So, animating, illustrating, and visualization is without these things, the animation is not possible. So today we have a guest who is really a good animator. He's not only a good animator, he's an illustrator, visualizer. You have a lot of experience on Nickelodeon animations, acting as a specialist, and you are doing also an Disney animation internship. Welcome to the show, Adriel. And would you want to share something about this? How you go there, and how is your experience start
Well,
first?
yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always good to come back on podcasts and everything. It's great to meet you. I was really surprised to have you reach out and to read your message. It's always good to see how far my artwork can reach, and then I love talking about the story and everything. Yeah, my name is Adriel. I am currently a visual development artist or concept artist, as well as an illustrator, and I have experience as a director as well, directing short films. Yeah. Basically, I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I grew up in the States. And yeah, as far as just how I got started, I think I came from an artistic family. A lot of my family members were fashion designers, graphic designers, African art majors, and stuff like that. So my household was always promoting creativity, and the question was never what you want to do. It's just kind of like, all right, you're going to do something creative. Which one are you going to pick? So I just ended up picking drawing, and I've always been drawing and stuff since a very young age. And my family, they're also very big moviegoers. So as I grew up, I drew. That was my thing. And then I would watch movies. That was my thing. And then I decided what happens when you mix them together? You get the world of animation. So I grew up. It's very interesting. I naturally grew up like as a Disney kid. I grew up, in the 90s era where everyone was growing up watching like the peak of Disney and all that good stuff. And then I went back because of my parents and I watched like a lot of the old like 60s cartoons and stuff like that. So my sister and I, we grew up watching Looney Tunes, grew up watching Tom and Jerry, all that good stuff. And yeah, I just kind of like left an imprint. I liked the imaginative quality of it. I like that no rules existed in animation. You can kind of do whatever you want. I like the entertainment factor. I like that these characters were alive. These characters, even like SpongeBob, could live with you. And then I like the fact that you could draw them. There was a soul. There was something that's tangible. And I just decided that I wanted to find out how I can make my own version of that. So I was inspired pretty early on. And yeah, that's luckily manifested into a career in animation where I've been fortunate enough to do my own projects as well as work with big clients like Disney and Nickelodeon that I've idolized as a child.
Wow, this is charmful. It's really learning things from your journey, and uh, gives a lot of inspiration from your side, like from a graphic designer, uh, from belong to a graphic designer family who's doing a lot of 2D things, 3D things, and storytelling. So, so my first question is, so what was your first doodle that accidentally become a world?
My first doodle that accidentally became a world. Let's see. This probably is going to be like when I was younger. This is going to be back when I was actually really doodling. As I mentioned, I came from like a creative household and stuff, and I was always reading books. Like in the States, we had Captain Underpants and stuff like that, like some just childhood books that were really fun. And I was always big on drawing and creating, and just like if I watched a movie, I would sketch something. If I saw a cool anime, I would sketch something. If I heard a joke, I would draw it. And actually, I think like I have it here. When I was here, let me see. I'll put it on camera in a little bit. But when I was in Arizona growing up as a kid, my mom was raising my sister and I, and she put us in a program called Latchkeyer, which was an after-school program where the parents would basically have more time to pick up the kids, and the kids would go to a different place where they would just kind of like have an extended recess, essentially. And I used Latchkey as a way to like hang out with all my friends and share creative things that I was doing. So at the time, my doodles, I would sketch, like I would watch a comedy movie as a kid, like a very silly comedy movie as a kid, and I would see like a little bit or a joke, and then I would draw it into like stick figures. I would draw squares. I always wanted to make my own comics, and I would just draw a square, and it was a very terrible drawing. But I would tell a story with it, and then I started making my comics into like little books, and then I started making. There was a book that I read as a kid called Money Talks by Andrew Clements. It talked about it was like a childhood youth book, and it talks about a little kid that like makes a comic book, and he found a way to fold the piece of paper 8 times and then staple it on two ends and then cut it, and you can make like a little tiny comic book that you could share with people. So what I was reaching for, I have a bunch of these, but they're like these old comics that I made called Incredibly Crazy Stick People, and I would literally,
Wow.
I would literally, it's so bad. It's so bad, but this is like 6 year old, like, no, probably like 8 to 10 year old me. And I would just have little jokes that I would write, and I would put them into little
Wow.
squares. And then my world, as far as building my world goes, I would bring these to Latchkey, have a group. It wasn't uncommon for me to have a group of like 12 to 10 kids just sitting around me. And I would be like, all right, guys, this is season 2. First we have blah, 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 blah. And then like I would create my world. Everyone was like, when's the next comic book coming out? When's the next story coming out? And I mean, I think I have like 8 or 7 of these. And it's just like, you can see this. This is construction paper, and then like
Yeah.
lined paper that I just folded, stapled. There's a little staple holding this thing together for like more than 2 decades. And then yeah, I just would tell my story and continue to build my world and continue. I think that's when I fell in love with the art of storytelling. And specifically, that's when I fell in love with how stories that you share can connect people. And that ultimately is what set me, comic books just evolved into, let me turn this into an animation. And when I did USC for grad school, I actually had a chance where we had a small assignment doing stop motion animation. We were learning how to do stop motion animation. And it was just create a 15-second like story with stop motion cutout animation. And, people are like, what are you going to pull from? Inspiration. I pulled from one of the comics that I made when I was a kid. I reimagined it into like a small little stop motion thing. So yeah. Yeah, a little long-winded, but that's my little world. Last time the doodle created a little world, and the rest has been history ever since.
Oh, wow, Adriel, your imagination is in the highest level. Actually,
Thank you.
you do a comic book from the childhood and do all those things, the imagination, storytelling, and mostly the people are like imagine, but they couldn't go for this. They couldn't art to that, but we should do that. Everyone should do what they imagine, what they should not imagine, so they are just draw it, and by that we know that what's our imagination, how we explain to the world to our ideas.
Hmm.
It's mostly very effective. uh, so I really appreciate with your all those things you are doing in the notebook from this childhood to up to there, and
Thank you.
still you are doing also very good things. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
And my second question is, can a single line shape on entire universe, and how?
Can a single line shape the entire universe, and how? I mean, I think it's like when it comes to that, you kind of, I'm thinking immediately like the theory of the Big Bang and everything, and how like the single line is what starts. It's kind of like the inception point for your entire world. That first line is kind of like the bridge between your heart and your mind and your imagination. The single line can be treated as just like, it's just a just a line, but you have to think about the flow state that you're in when you are drawing. You're probably inspired by a bunch of little things. And essentially, that single line is, like I said, just the inception to begin what could be so much greater. Like, think about someone like Steven Hildenberg. You know, he studied excuse me, Steven Hildenberg is the creator of SpongeBob, as a lot of people know. So he studied marine biology. He was always around sponges and stars and stuff like that. And his single line was just, I'm gonna draw this little cool looking square character. He's kind of annoying, kind of funny. I'm gonna call him Sponge Boy. And then the next line created Patrick, and the next line created Squidward, and then that single line became the inception into what created the entire world of SpongeBob. That's inspired a lot of genres. So I talk a lot about just the fact that, it doesn't really matter where you start as long as you actually just start. This whole industry is just about pencil mileage anyway. My stick figures that I drew in the comic books are way different than the lines that I'm doing right now. But what's important is that you start getting that connection between your mind and your heart, what you feel, what you're capable of doing cognitively, and then what you're capable of communicating tangibly. And as long as you can start working really hard to get those three things together, I think that, yeah, absolutely, a single line can create a whole world. All of my worlds started with a single line, whether that line is a very tiny, terrible, vertical line that then has a circle and then two legs and two arms and it's a stick figure, or whether that
Yeah.
line is the line that I did at Disney that ended up being a character that I designed. I think everything starts from something. And whether you're, yeah, I think whether you're starting or you're at the end of your career, I think you're always going to be starting with that single line.
Was very impressive for me. Like, from the single line, you can draw everything. From a single line, we design a character
Hmm.
with the two hands, or two legs, and one face. We
Hmm.
can do this, and simply like everything we can do in a single line. But you're explaining very much good. So really, the peoples are really influenced by this. And my third question is, how does your subconscious influence the worlds you sketch?
I think that at any given point in time, how does your subconscious influence the world you sketch? I think it's our job kind of as humans. We are mirrors of the things that shape us. So as far as your subconscious, you kind of go back to the idea of nature versus nurture. Your temperament is something that you're built with and your character is something that you develop. I like to treat that in the same way as like the influences that you have in the world. You might have been raised with a certain temperament or a certain, like, maybe you see everything in a very calm and happy way, and that's just your temperament. Or maybe you see everything in a very visceral and, like, dark way, and that's just your temperament. But I think at the end of the day, every human being is in charge of, not even charge, I should say, every human being has the capacity to reflect, and we're all reflections of the things that inspired us. Like, take for example my film Camp Kona. My film that I just did, Camp Kona, is like my first short film. I directed a team of people to create it, and that was a mirror of my when I grew up. I loved 80s movies. I loved Stranger Things when I started becoming a little bit older, and I discovered that show. I love Spielberg. I love monster movies. I loved characters that looked like me, etc. So all of these things were just things that were in my subconscious, that things that ended up shaping my taste. And then after that, like, once I developed that ability to be able to reflect what I believe and what I love, then my subconscious created the world, as I said. And I think, like, right now we're talking about art specifically and like painting and stuff like that specifically, but everyone does that. Even if you're a musician, a musician's job is to kind of like look at the sounds that they feel and that they hear, and not necessarily like reflect basically what they feel inspired by. They hear a tune that has a nice drum beat, they hear a nice guitar lick, and their job is to kind of like internalize that, think about and reflect on what they're feeling, what's inspiring them, what's going on in their subconscious, and then they turn that into art. So I think, yeah, at the end of the day, we're all kind of like, we're all reflections of the things that inspired us over time, and it's what keeps compounding to make our character and keeps creating, the person that we are. And I would hope that eventually, like, yeah, as long as we're living, our subconscious is informing the worlds that we sketch, because it's something that could always change. I could meet someone tomorrow that shows me the magic of, like, 3D art and all that kind of stuff, and like like, let's say I meet someone who worked on Spider-Verse, and they're like, oh, this is how we turned Spider-Man into looking like a comic book 3D, and I become super inspired by that, and then I start painting a little bit like that. Like, it just, yeah, it compounds, it builds, just kind of like our character, I would say.
Wow, it's I really appreciate with you and about this. So the world's is influenced by your subconscious in these areas. So mostly the people in the music area. So they how they are built the animation things, how they build the movies to see the character, to see the situation, uh, to do to, they do are they're doing something, but how they feel that I have to give that music into that place, so that is really good animating, or that is really good feature when the client, or when the users, or we can say when the listeners, or uh, the seers, they can enjoy, they can entertain by this. How they did that.
How do they do that? I think if I understand the question correctly, it's basically just like how do you ensure that the viewer is going to enjoy something? I think that the best way okay, so I could take two venues on this, right? You always have the idea of doing what's popular. You always have the idea of like, okay, you know what? Audiences right now, they love this. Let's do this. Let's create a catchy song that audience like, oh, Sabrina Carpenter is popular. Oh, this person's popular. Let's create a poppy, catchy song that we know everyone is going to like, just to follow like a formula. You're going to do it. Odds are people will like it. But I think when you focus on the first part of your question, which is like, how do you, as a creator, ensure that an audience is going to love something? I think it starts with authentically telling your story. I think that people look for things that are a reflection of themselves. They look for things that they can relate to. They look for things that are authentic, is the word. And the best way that you can create something that is going to resonate with people is if you make something that's authentic to you. Tell a story based off of how you see the world. You know, the best songs that really like irk your soul and really resonate with your soul are the ones where you're like, dang, like those lyrics really like hit me, or like, wow, that melody really hit me. And it's because the creator ultimately was not creating it to follow a formula or do an algorithm or something like that. The creator was creating it for themselves. They were telling the story, they were documenting the story, they were reflecting their story into the medium that they're creating, and then they're choosing to release that into the world. And then the world kind of can take it or leave it. The world can kind of, but then because of the rawness of it, because of the authenticity of it, because of the fact that people can feel that it's real and this is the creator's voice. You know what? He's talking about, like, let's say, Louis Capaldi, that one time he made a song about someone you loved. You know, it's talking about like losing someone. He's like, the one of the lyrics are, I'm going under and this time I feel like nothing can save me. People listen to that, and like Louis, when he's singing that raw, he's singing that like really authentic emotion. And then people are listening to that and they're like, dang, you know, I've gone through that, you know, like, wow, like I can relate to that. It really touches their soul. And then, you know, people are anthemically belting it out in the middle of audiences and crowd. They're like, me too, Louis, me too. I feel it, you know? So I think it starts with creating something that is your purest and truest self. I wouldn't mind with being vulnerable. I wouldn't mind, you know, that's what art is. It really is showing wearing your heart on your sleeve and putting it out there for people to critique. And then once you're doing that in the most authentic, unmasked way, where you're not pretending, you're not doing things, you're not trying to follow a formula, I think people are going to see that. They can see quality. They can absolutely see that. And that's how I think artists do it. And that's how musicians do it in a lot of different mediums of art.
Wow, it's amazing. Like people are really entertained when they see all these things in the film, like animating, music, and all the stuffs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really big good things for the people, for the animator. When the animator gets pleasure because of the people, the viewers mostly, they enjoy that movie with a very fascinating way, and very hurry up, very joes they have people. So my fourth question is, what hidden rules do your worlds follows? Are they written or felt?
Just quickly, because you made me think about that. Just the last tack on to the other question, I was going to say just mainstream films that you're watching as well, like with big directors and stuff. Disney movies like Brad Bird, he created The Incredibles. We watched The Incredibles and it's iconic to us. We're like, oh my God, I love that. But Brad Bird has been sitting on that script for so long. He loves like the old aesthetic. He loves the characters that he created. He wrote the quips and stuff like that based off of his own voice. And again, he created an authentic thing that he put out into the world that people liked. So I was thinking about that while you were talking, and I was like, yeah, yeah, all the projects that we love typically start like that. But yes, to answer your other question, what hidden rules? Like, do we follow hidden rules? Was it? Are they written? Are they felt? I would say it's a mixture of both. I think that, writing and then doing stuff like that creates structure and gives structure to create freedom. Like, it gives you like the walls. Rules in general give you bounds and a room, like a sandbox to create. But emotion is what gives it flavor. So I think that you need both. Like, if I'm designing a world, if I'm thinking of something that I want to create, I can just like endlessly say, what if I'm feeling like this character looks cool. Oh no, but then, oh, this character has wings, etc. You can freeform it based off of feeling. But I think the best way that you can do it is like, if you're jotting down a list, or if you're making just like a quick list of rules, like to go back to Spider-Verse, for example,
Yeah.
they said, what if our rules, we took Spider-Verse and reinvented it in animation. Awesome, that's a rule. What if we focused on Miles Morales, a popular but unknown character, and gave him the limelight versus our Peter Parker? Interesting, that's a rule, and we can expand on that world. What if we made it 3D animation, but we made it look like 2D? And what if we specifically made it look like a comic book? This might feel restrictive, but this is like our four walls that create our sandbox that we can play in. And then once we have that direction, it basically gives us our heading and our destination. And it doesn't, sometimes, our heading is here. Sometimes we might veer left, veer right, but that's the feeling, like when we're feeling the emotion, we're gonna, oh, okay. But as long as we know where we're going and our destination, and we have a good track of where we're going, I think that's when they both come into play. And eventually, like, even if this is your heading and this is your path, you look back at the path and you look at the destination, you made it to the destination, and the art that you're looking at is the path itself. So that being said, like in that example with Spider-Verse, they made those rules, then they invested time into exploring them, and to, okay, well, what if it looks like this? What if it looks like that? This is exactly what we want. And then they have a product where eventually it follows in visual storytelling, and you have a beautiful piece of art because of rules. So anytime I'm approaching a new project, I like to create just a quick list of rules. Is this going to be magical realism? Is this going to be based in realism? What did the character want? Like, let's say you're designing a character. You kind of like, if I want to make a character that embodies like a smart, let's say a smart character, I'm going to say that this character is smart, but this character is also a little bit timid. How can I make that rule into a feeling? Then I'm going to say, if I want to make them smart, maybe I give them glasses. If I want to make them timid, maybe I make them bundle up a little bit and they're wearing like a hoodie. And maybe like I'm making those rules, and I can already start seeing this character that's authentically being created based off of those rules. And then now I have something that is not only based in a reality, but it has an expression of what I feel as well. And you can mix together, like, in style in general. Creating style is all about being able to freeform and express given the confines of your space.
Like, um, yes, I appreciated your answers. Like, everything is make it's very realistic. And how many times of animator fall? Because most of the time animator falling because they design the character, and sometimes they have sometimes the animators not satisfied that now it's no, it should not be in this movie because this character is not built well. So how many times the animators fall? How many? How their motive? What? How their motive to himself, and how they can draw to all those things. So would you say about this? Like how they motive to it? They do something well.
How are they motivated to do something well if they fail with characters, essentially?
Yes, yes.
So I mean, I think the characters in general is going to be an iterative process. So characters, you're going to be creating something. I think it's good that you kind of like scrap things, because like, if like, for example, storyboard artists are always playing with the idea, what if, okay, I'm doing this podcast, and when I'm doing this podcast, my camera is facing this way, but let me do the entire thing like that. But no, what if that was a better background? Okay, scrap, there we go. This is a better background. So it's through that scrapping process, it's through that iterative process that you discover and you implement, and you can find exactly what perfectly works. I think that that's the most important thing. A lot of artists are doing that. I have so many sketches. It's through those sketch processes that you really like weed through the ideas. You express your stream of consciousness and your flow state of mind. And then finally you land on something where you're like, Maybe sketch 1 gave me the inception, but sketch 35 that's what I'm going with. So I think it's important for you. Yeah, it's going to happen all the time. I have characters that I draw. All my drawings on Instagram. I know some of my best drawings on Instagram. I started drawing. I'm like, this is terrible. Let me just scrap it. Let me just delete everything and let me start from scratch. So it's an iterative process, but I think that it compounds.
Wow. Okay, yeah, and I really appreciate it, you and you are doing a fabulous job here to do this everything you are doing today. Artist for not exactly to satisfy in a one sketch. You're doing a fabulous sketches and just choose this what's suitable for this movie. It really give a good hard work, and after that, it will happen. So, my fifth question: can AI enhanced doodling still preserve the soul of hand-drawn worlds?
I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, AI can assist, but it's never going to be able to replace the soul. I think AI has been a tool for the longest time, and like I'm a person that uses ChatGPT on a regular basis just to help out with like what's it called, like administrative stuff and all that good stuff. But I think it's coming into the form where it's kind of like a party trick, like you hold on to it because, oh my God, like there's novelty to it, etc. I can take a screenshot of you and I doing this podcast and then put it on ChatGPT and it will spit us out in the form of a Studio Ghibli style. That's so fun. I might hold on to that image as like a fun memory and show my friends, and I might tell my friends like, hey, like that picture that you took on the beach, go put it into chat. It'll turn you into a Studio Ghibli style. No way. However, outside of that novelty, outside of that party trick kind of an energy, you're not looking at that thinking, wow, I feel so moved by this process. I could really feel the storytelling coming through. And I think that's why AI enhanced doodling will serve as a tool, but I don't think it'll ever replace the whole process. You're still going to go to an artist. Like you're still going to come to me and ask me to draw you something based off of my experiences and based off of my expertise that I've developed over time and by my nuance and the fact that if I can draw characters, I could put this little light in their eye that reflects the light that I have. Little things like that. I think that it's a good way to iterate in the same way that you can sketch and different mediums, different industries. I would say will treat AI very differently. Like I know it's very popular in like commercial spaces and advertising and marketing when you're having mediums that kind of want to communicate as fast as possible and they're focused more on the why than the final product, or like they're focused more on kind of like the message that they want to give, and they see AI as a good means to an ends to communicate that. And more power to them for doing that. But I think that in the world of narrative animation and the world of stuff like that, where people are worried that like AI is going to take the jobs, I think that it's a good way for you to say, like, for example, we can go back to Spider-Verse. What if Spider-Man comic book, 3D animation, what would that even look like? And then you put it in and it'll sketch and spit something out. And I wouldn't necessarily use that as a final thing with Soul, but you might have the type of people that look at the things that it spits out and they're just like, I kind of like this one. Let me go and explore it. I kind of like that. It can help materialize the imaginative world in certain instances. But I think that you always need to have humans take the baton. You always need to have humans, take the story and run with it. And even if you're using that as a way to just get your brain, your ideas out on paper or your ideas in a way that's tangible, I think it should definitely like be a tool more so than something that you lean on. So yeah, it's the same thing. I would say like artists are going to be sketching, artists are going to be imagining and iterating and stuff like that. And some people are going to be using AI enhanced doodling to just get their ideas out or just to spit out things that they perhaps didn't necessarily think about. People are going to, it's something that kind of definitely there's polarity around the notion of it. I'm just a big believer in the fact that I don't think it's going to replace jobs because you come to an artist for the artist experience, the artist style, and the artist's soul. So there will be a facet of people like, you have children's books that are being created with AI right now, for sure. There's going to be a facet of people that's like, I've been writing my whole life. I could never draw. I want to just tell my stories, and that's going to work for them, etc. But then you have people that are going to look at that and they're like, do you really want to read a children's book that's done completely in AI? I want to read one that looks like If You Give a Mouse a Cookie that I read when I was a child. Like I want to read one that has the soul of an artist. So the subsection, the niches are going to exist, but I think you are going to have that. There's going to be a lot of value placed on the people that can really preserve and communicate their souls in hand-drawn worlds.
Yeah, like AI took the never took the real talent, real soul of an animator.
Mm,
It may fast, but it never kills to someone's creativity who is really doing from the heart to do any scene or any character in animation field. So this is only by the hard working and skills they have. Then after that, they are doing a good film on the animation.
hmm
So I really appreciate with you and always. Would you artificial intelligence might be is bigger than the animator? People say, people are saying like we can make a short video of an animation with the using of AI, like maybe Gemini or maybe by the Chat GPT.
mm,
They are taking a fabulous what like content. They are taking a fabulous content, and they are doing and they're having a huge viewers in YouTube. So are they doing good, or are they just the wasting of time? Without this, we can make animation to take time from 1 to 2 years. After that, we are doing this, or we should take the help from the AI to make more growth for the huge viewers.
yeah.
What your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, I guess to just close one of the previous thoughts that I have kind of like on it replacing the soul as well, before I answer this question, another thing that just came to my mind is if you're familiar with the Jungle Book as well, I saw a video that interviewed one of the animators from the Jungle Book. And the thing about AI not being able to replace the soul is that a lot of animators approach their character acting based off of experiences that they have and people that they know and people that influence them in their lifetime. So the reason why I mentioned the Jungle Book is, for example, you have Baloo, the bear in the Jungle Book, and he has a moment where he's thinking and he's talking and he's scratching his chest and he's thinking. And then when you interview, that's like a thing that was very iconic for him. He's like scratching his chest. And then they interviewed the animator that animated Baloo in that shot. And on his paper, all he gets is Baloo talking to Bagheera. And when they're talking to each other, Baloo nervously looks up and says something. And it's the animator's job who reads that prompt, who reads that instruction, says, okay, Baloo is nervous. And he said, oh, when I was in the military, I knew a guy that was like a nervous guy. And whenever he was nervous, he would always scratch his chest. And then that's what I mean. Like he pulls from his experiences and then he puts that into the movie based off of his experiences, based off of his soul, based off of the things that make him an artist. And then that's something that now we're talking about. You know, just that little thing, that little scratch on the chest is just purely from that guy's experience. And that's another reason why I don't think that it's going to be able to replace it, because you need those kind of things to inform the characters. And then, yeah, to answer your question now, I think like, I mean, I've talked about this. I did a whole podcast on like the world of AI and animation and stuff. And the way that I talk about it is like, if I'm, yeah, okay, doing it properly from this angle, it's a graph, I would say. You have hype on this level, and then you have time on this level. I think that when you have AI, initially the hype is going there. I'll do it like this. Initially, the hype right now is going through the roof. Hype and fear. You have people that are like, "Oh my god, AI is going to take over!" Oh my god, and you have people that are like, "Oh my god, AI is the greatest thing. I want to do everything. Oh my god, have you seen this? Have you seen this? I can create an animated movie in like 5 seconds. Oh my god. Oh no, it's going to take over our job." The hype is extremely high. But then what's going to happen is we're going to have an area where people start dying down. And you know it's going to
Yeah.
start crashing a little bit, and we're going to be okay. Well, AI exists. AI is here. Oh man, okay. Well, is it going to create videos? We already have Google VO3. Is it going to be okay? Well, AI is here. Okay, how can I use it in my day to day life? And then we're going to reach a plateau where it just becomes normalized, like the internet. Like the internet boom. Oh my God, what is this? The World Wide Web? What do you mean this dark thing? Oh, I can find it. And then, okay, well, the World Wide Web exists. www.internet exists. How could I use the internet in my day to day life? And now we don't even think about it. So I think it's going to be like that. A lot of things just have the initial hysteria. So with stuff like this, you have like the Wild West mentality. A lot of people see an open frontier that's not discovered, so they want to push the boundaries. And sometimes you have moments like the quote in Jurassic Park: "We stopped, so we focused so much on whether or not we could, we didn't really stop and think about whether we should." So you have people that are going to just like break. You know, there's the whole thing with AI is like they're debating about the ethics of it. So like, yeah, oh my God, I want to create an animated video. Okay, what if I what if I took like my influences of this and that and Ghibli and that and that and that, and I took all of my influences and I created a video in a fraction of the time it takes me to actually animate it. Here's my video. So we thought about whether or not we can I make something that's based off of my inspiration? But then you don't necessarily think on if you should, and you're like, wait, so I've just taken so many copyrights from like Miyazaki. I've taken so many, like my ethics are a little bit odd here. And I think that's a part of the hype and the hysteria. I think it's going to, like ethics are going to come in, law cases. The Hollywood is like, okay, some people want to use likeness of characters, and some people want to license the look of an actor, and then some people are like, no, you can't do that. So it's going to get smashed down with ethics and with like rules and guidelines. And after we have those rules and guidelines, then it's going to reach a nice area where people are like, this is how I use AI.
Like, yes, like I appreciate with you about this, and people should know about this. Like AI, we are working on AI. Yes, it's good, but we make something in the AI that maybe exist, but that not go far, because our motivation loses. It can give a motivation when we are doing something with the using of AI. But when we are doing something according to your answers, like when we are doing something from the soul, from the refreshing of memories, that is real talent, that is real skill to do something which is that may be slow, but that gives you really stepwise development.
Mm.
That's really I happy to appreciate with your answer. So that's my question is, what advice would you give to the next generation of pencil powered world builders?
What advice would I give them? I think my advice that I give to everyone is to go and live life. I say, like let curiosity lead your sketchbook. Whether it's that example I gave of scratching the chest, etc. That came from a person going and living their life and finding experiences and finding things to become inspired by. So my first advice to them is that. My second advice is if you're pushing a pencil, bring a sketchbook everywhere, constantly push a pencil, and don't be afraid to make drawing and making designing and art and all that good stuff a part of your actual personality, a part of your actual what defines you as a person. I think that you need to make make art a part of your identity and not just make it a hobby. Like if you are really curious about this, live your life, document your life, study, watch movies, read scripts, read stories, and ultimately this kind of comes down to the thing of like you have the hard skills. Of course, if you are a pencil powered world builder, you're drawing every day, you're creating worlds. And as I mentioned earlier, drawing and talking about world building is all about your ability to translate what's in your heart and what you feel through what's in your brain and what you're capable of, and communicate it through your hand. So as long as you can start connecting those three things efficiently, I think that's what you should work towards. So whether that looks like doing classes, looking at online YouTube videos and tutorials, always just investing in yourself so that your skills can go from that initial one line, one drawing into like a new world that you're building. I think that that's going to be the best advice that I can give, is just to go and live that life, invest in your skills, and ensure that you're always becoming a storyteller. And actually, I think that's probably the biggest thing is, as a world builder, you need to be able to build rich worlds. And the best way to build rich worlds is through your storytelling. Talk to people, tell them stories, become intrigued. You don't necessarily have to be like an extrovert and be like talking to everyone, but become intrigued at why a story is good. When you're talking to someone, I always tell people when you're talking to people and you're listening to their stories, see how well you can imagine their stories, see how well you can tell a story, and practice telling stories. I love telling stories to people ever since I created the little incredible crazy stick people things. That those stories were a little bit juvenile, a little bit they needed some work every now and again, but it's you master the craft of telling a story and telling a compelling story and really painting a picture with your words and painting a picture with your art, literally. And I think if you start prioritizing becoming a storyteller, it's going to inform your world building. Because even if I start making a world right now, like let's just say right now you and I want to create a movie, and the idea of the movie is someone wants to make Robin Hood in the year 2099. They want to make a futuristic Robin Hood. You and I would sit down and we would be like, okay, okay, how can I make Nottingham look futuristic? Well, Nottingham is this and that, and like in the futuristic world, maybe I want a cyberpunk aesthetic, or maybe I want a steam, like little things like that. You can your world building based off of the experiences, and like what is the detail that we're drawing tell us about our character? What are the details I'm drawing tell us about our world that we're building? So focused on, artists are observers. Artists are, it's our job, like I said, to reflect what we're inspired by. So look at people, don't stare at them, but look at people, study them, study what makes people themselves, what makes people iconic and unique, and what makes people's stories compelling, and then find a way to translate that into your art.
Yeah, like uh, when people or the students when they start their career in the animation line or any movie, they want to create something documentary. What they should do first? They should read the comic books. They should hire, or they should normal books, and after that they are generating the ideas in the mind, and after that they are doing this. What's your motivation towards them? How they could start?
How they can start, just basically like students, how they can start building their career and world building. The main thing I think about that is like, especially when you're in a student space, leverage everything. When you're in a student space, you could use the excuse of being a student to do anything, to get into different places. Oh my God, can I get into this museum? I'm a student. I'm doing a research project. I want to study this thing, etc. This is going to be pertinent to my is going to be pertinent to my thesis or pertinent to my project, etc. I think you should. I'm always a big believer in the idea that a talking bird is never lost. I got to where I am today because I was very, very vocal about where I wanted to be. I did retail at Apple for a little bit, and I was talking to people while selling iPhones, and they're like, "Oh, like what do you? I've been at Apple for 70 years, or like not 70 years. I've been at Apple for like 10 years. Like, what do you want to do?" And I'm just like, cool. I'm going to be a director one day. And so, like everyone was very supportive of my delusions. Everyone was like, okay, okay, buddy, but it really is important. I think you need to live and breathe and believe in what you're doing. I think those people that are students right now, you need to live and breathe and believe. You need to be curious. You need to invest in yourself. You need to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing and people that can inspire you. And you need to leverage environments like school. Even if you're taking the most boring class ever, find a way to put your inspiration in it. Let's say I'm taking I don't know, like a history class or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, and then one of our assignments is tell a story based off of something in the history. Find a way. I would take that assignment, and I would use that to make stories, paint a little bit, tell the story in a way that's unique to me. Like I would tell the story and do it unique to me and find it every opportunity. That's the whole point I want to make without rambling is when you're a student, you have all of the access and almost none of the responsibility. So leverage that level of freedom because you're going to be able to build on yourself, leverage your network. A lot of people that I met in school and a lot of people that I met in different places during my university life are responsible for being connections that I've been able to foster over time and connections that have helped me in the industry. You're never really going outside of like working in your field and like really being in a specific niche. You're never going to be in such a very highly inspired, highly influenceable, like contagious of learning state of mind than you are in school. And I think that I appreciate it, I enjoy it, and I would tell people to do the same.
Wow, I really appreciate with you, Adriel, and I really appreciate with your time. Also, you have a precious time to give us for this podcast. And this is really a blissful things for the students from how they are doing, how they first begin to their career in this field, and um, we really people who is watching this podcast and listen to this podcast really get the information how they should start and how they inspire from your journey. This is a very good thing for us in the future. So you thanks for your guidance and for the podcast. So by this podcast, so you are giving us like you are giving us a life like to do something with the refreshing mind with the memory and believe in the skills what you have and do this in the sketches. So it's really a good thing and I appreciate with you, Adriel. And so thank you so much for coming to the podcast. and having a nice day for this. So we
Of
are
course.
now stopping to this podcast show, and thanks for coming to our show. And it's our pleasure to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you giving me the platform. It's always good. And I appreciated you reaching out and giving me a space to share my story. So hopefully your viewers are going to enjoy it. I think you mentioned that you were starting this podcast as an undergrad student. I think you're doing a great thing. I think that you're doing a prime example of it. You know, in a way, this is your sketch. This is how you're finding out what you love and you're building upon it, and you're doing it at a level like you're in school. Like I said, you're doing it at a level where you have all of the access and none of the responsibility. You can keep building this thing into this thing that's
Yeah.
going to really outlive you. And I think it's amazing that you're chasing what you want to do. And I just say keep doing it and keep sharing that. Be vocal. Tell people I'm doing this podcast. You know, I think you're doing an amazing thing. So, and you're going to inspire a lot of people. So, yeah. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your time as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Of
Adriel.
course.
Have a good day.